All right, I just finished day number 1 of construction work for the summer. Got up at 5 a.m., so I'm fucking exhausted. Pulled up, did some fencing, a little bit of sweeping, always a good time. Then I did some door unloading. That was fantastic. Ran my knee into a pile of doors, so that was a very good time. And while I was working construction, I just brought my headphones while I was doing like sweeping and like cleanup and stuff. I'm just a laborer. So I was doing like that simple shit. I listened to 2 books. The first one is a book I started a while back and I finished it. It was called, what was it? Quest for Character, which is a really fascinating book that looks at the way that philosophers have influenced leaders throughout history and then the effect that those leaders had on the events in the world during their time. So the first that they look at that the writer looked at was Socrates and Alcibiades. If you know who Alcibiades is, he's a crazy motherfucker who gained tons of power and support in Athens. He was a super successful general, and then crushed it at the Olympics. And then he fought in a bunch of wars, gained a lot of influence, pushed Athens into going out and fighting all these wars that they didn't really need to be fighting, but he was very charismatic, so they followed his lead anyway. However, eventually he ended up getting drunk and chopping off the dicks of a bunch of these statues, these like holy statues throughout Athens, and so they threatened to put him to death. So he ran away to Sparta, Athens' literal enemy at the time. Sparta accepted him in because he was like, I'll help you guys out. And then he helped Sparta wage war against Athens, even though he basically started the war between Athens and Sparta, and forced Sparta's hand into the war. And then he banged the Spartan queen. So when the king was coming back home, everyone was like, dude, the king's gonna fucking kill you. He knows that you banged his wife and that she's having your child. He was like, oh shit, I gotta get out of here. So he ran off and he became homies with the fucking Persians, who like all of the Greeks hated, and the Persians fucking hated the Greeks. There's so much history between the Persians and Greeks, it was ridiculous. He joined the Persians and convinced the Persians to go and get involved in all these fucking wars, shit on Athens for a while, and then Athens was so screwed that they literally invited him back in as like their basically their emperor, like a dictator, essentially. Gave him all the power and were like, look man, just get us out of this shithole. He came back and then helped Athens fuck on everybody else for a while. And then everything really spiraled out of control after that. Athens decided to bail on him again. They got screwed. It's a whole thing. But he was a crazy motherfucker, and he was a student of Socrates. And Socrates tried to teach him to be a virtuous leader. And so that's why this book is called The Quest for Character. It's looking at, all right, these philosophers were trying to teach these leaders to be good leaders, and to do what was best for the people. And well, Socrates fucked up. I would say he fucked up, but he didn't do it well. Alcibiades is a really fascinating guy. Great to study for strategy, to look at how the role that envy plays in those who amass wealth and power, to look at how pride can distort your worldview and cause you to wreak havoc in your life. I actually have some videos I recorded where I talk about this story and talk about it in a strategic sense that maybe I'll post at some point. It's a really fascinating story. But yeah, so he looks at that, then he goes and he looks at Seneca and Nero and Seneca was a Stoic philosopher, Nero was a Roman emperor, and he looks at Alexander the Great and Aristotle, and essentially how these philosophers influenced these leaders and the effect that had on them. Really fascinating book. Definitely worth a read, or at least listen to the audiobook. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I feel like I learned a lot from it. I'd say, like, in terms of like a history book, it's excellent. Right now, I actually just stopped reading this history book called Leaders of War because it wasn't great. I got like halfway through and I wasn't loving it. Basically, it was about different leaders throughout history. So it looked at like Napoleon and Nelson and who else? I looked at a couple of others. But each chapter was super brief. It didn't really give you many insights as to their leadership techniques. It talked about them, it mentioned their qualities, but the stories that he told didn't really illustrate their leadership techniques. It was kind of like he just listed a bunch of events and then said, and these were their techniques. Not fantastic. So I think it's really hard to find a history book that's informative, teaches you about the actual events and what happened, and then also shows the character of the individuals involved, and then can extract valuable, I guess, lessons or principles to be understood that by those stories, and can actually effectively use those stories to illustrate those principles. That's something Robert Greene does extremely well. So I really enjoyed Quest for Character. Fantastic history book. It utilizes philosophy. It utilizes the quality of people's character and being able to assess the principles that they live by and the way that affects how they act and the way that actually affected historical events, which I think is the most important aspect of history, at least one of the most important aspects. And it goes a little bit into political science as well. So yeah, I highly recommend that book. And then I read The 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene over a year ago. And so I've been re-listening to that over the last couple months, just whenever I get a chance. So I threw that in. The chapter, that was just the last hour of work. The chapter I listened to was it was one of the offensive strategies, and it was called Attack Their Point of Gravity or something like that. And essentially what he was saying is, look, there's some factor that an enemy's strength relies upon, and if you can take that factor out, then you take out their strength and you wreak havoc on their overarching strategy. So that was a great chapter. I love the 33 Strategies of War. I think it's one of my favorite books of all time. I also love Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature. Laws of Power was great too, but I think Strategies of War is the best. Laws of Seduction is great, and Mastery is fantastic. But Strategies of War might just be my best. Basically, this strategy was saying, attack their strong point. One of the historical examples that Robert Greene used was Scipio, who was a Roman emperor, or not a Roman emperor, a Roman general, while Hannibal was invading Italy during that whole thing. And basically, Scipio got a small group of soldiers and went to Hannibal's homeland and attacked these farms that the economy of his homeland, Carthage, was dependent on. And so that forced Hannibal to retreat from Italy and go back to Carthage and fight on those grounds, as opposed to fighting Hannibal in Italy, where Hannibal was wreaking havoc on Roman towns. So that's a genius strategy. Everybody tends to kind of look at like what's happening right in front of them, but they don't tend to see, okay, well, look, Hannibal's economic support is coming from Carthage, and Carthage's economic well-being is dependent on these farming towns. So if I strike at these farming towns, I'll wipe them out. Don't quote me on all of that. I was like working while I was doing it. It's been a year since I actually read it. That's like what I remember. But I think that was a really fascinating story. It was something along those lines. But I would definitely recommend go read that for yourself. That whole book is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Right now, I just realized I've missed my turn to go home. Fuck. But yeah, I'm gonna get into the other line. Yeah, really, really good stuff. It's 4 o'clock, probably 4:30 by now, so I'm gonna head home, get some coding done. Hopefully this freaking guy won't let me in. Hopefully get like a pretty significant amount of coding done, but we'll see. I should definitely give you guys an update on what's going there. Overall update on my summer plans though. So it's been a couple of weeks since summer started. I was in Boulder doing sunrise runs, all that good stuff. I got out of that rut. That was fantastic. Talked about that. Now I'm back in Monterey, California. Oh yeah, I had my whole thing. What is it? My social life versus goals thing. If you guys saw that video, it was a good one. I was like, shit. But I'm back in Monterey now, my hometown, working construction. I'm gonna be here. I have a Spartan race this weekend, so I'm gonna work construction this week and next week, and then the following my Spartan race this upcoming weekend is in Monterey. So I'll get some videos of that. Hopefully make a little thing out of it, a cool music video or something. Could be fun. And then next week I'm heading back to Boulder, or no, next week I'm working another week of construction. Then that weekend I go back to Boulder for a second Spartan race. My body is going to be absolutely fucking wrecked. And then after I run that second Spartan race, I'm gonna cry a little bit, stay in Boulder for a good month or so, and then and then after I'm in Boulder for a month or so, while I'm in Boulder, gonna try and crank on the online business. I'm gonna get a little bit done while I'm in Monterey as well. That's why I'm going home to code. And then I'll be back here again after a month for some more construction work. So jumping around a lot, but I'll keep you guys updated on all. Well, you guys, by you guys, I mean you one subscriber, who may or may not watch my videos and may or may not have been me subscribing to myself from my other account. I hope that's not the case. But yeah, I'll let you guys, I'll let you know, what everything looks like. And I'll probably talk about the current update on the whole coding plan and strategy soon, very, very soon. I just need to get that figured out. Basically right now I'm looking for my, the final project to do for DevSlopes. And then once I figure that out, shit should be pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, see ya.